7. Islam is anti-slavery. Muslim preachers typically modify and adapt the message of Islam so that it conforms to the beliefs and values of their listeners. Hence, recognizing the racial tensions in the United States in the 1960s and seeking to win more black converts, these preachers assured their listeners that Islam is anti-slavery. In reality, Muhammad bought, owned, sold, and traded black African slaves. We read about a black slave of Allah's messenger in Sahih al-Bukhari.
David Wood, same David Wood who tried to kill his father with a hammer, was put into a mental hospital by his mother. In other words, everybody's favorite father basher, David Wood, has been has made a video, a top 10 myths people believe about Islam or some bullshit like that. But anyways, he's repeating same old stupid arguments. But one of the arguments he made that I never addressed is the claim that Islam allows slavery, and that is false, or that's grossly misinterpreted. Now, David Wood brings up 3 points. The 3 points he brings up in that video are that the Prophet Muhammad bought and traded black slaves. Slavery is allowed in Islam, in the whole Mary Hafsa in the Prophet Muhammad story. Okay, so first off, let's talk about race and slavery. About Islam allegedly allowing enslavement of black people, or Islam allowing black slaves, etc., etc. Now, this is kind of a sensitive. The whole thing with black people is kind of sensitive because of Black Lives Matter, because of the whole George Floyd thing that happened last year. The whole thing with the cops and the cops shooting black people, etc., etc. So this is kind of a not only is it a controversial topic, but it's a very uncomfortable topic to talk about, because if you say anything even slightly anti-black, you're automatically you're automatically in hot water. You're automatically put in trouble by not only the liberals, but you're also put under scrutiny by some conservatives as well. Even though a lot of these whites who are conservative are the ones that support brutal treatment of black people by the cops. So this is a very sensitive and very controversial issue. But what David Wood is saying is false, because I don't want to talk about this issue, but the reason why I got to talk about it is because David Wood is bringing it up. So if I say anything offensive in this video, I do apologize. I'm not for Black Lives Matter, but I'm not against them either. I just don't care about the situation. I just don't want to comment on black people or etc. I just don't want to say anything about that. But I'm just going to be talking about what my religion teaches about this topic. Now, it's completely and utterly false to say that that slavery in Islam was based on a person being black or not. First off, slavery was never based on race in Islam, as David Wood points out in Sunan al-Nisa number 4625. As he points out, there were Arab slaves. So in Arabia, there were black slaves, there were Arab slaves, there were Jewish slaves. Even before Islam, there were black slaves, Arab slaves, Jewish slaves. So this was incorporated in Arab society. Slavery was a pre-Islamic notion. The concept of, there being Arab slaves, black slaves, etc., that was already in Arabia before the Prophet Muhammad was even born. So that was already in Arab culture, well, in their culture in Arabia, before the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. So slavery in Arabia was not based on race, etc. There was Arab slaves too. So if slavery in Arabia was built on race, why would they enslave themselves? Doesn't make any sense. In Islam, everybody is created equal. In the Quran, chapter 49, verse 13. In Musnad Ahmad 22,391. We know the famous final sermon of the Prophet Muhammad where he says all mankind is from Adam and Eve. etc., etc. So in Islam, your race is irrelevant. You could be white, Arab, black, brown, Indian, Mexican, Chinese, whatever. You're all the children of Adam. It doesn't matter what your race is. All mankind goes back to Adam and Eve, according to Islam. So in Islam, your race is irrelevant. Islam says everybody, and everybody being, mankind, is from the children of Adam. Again, in the Quran, chapter 49, verse 13, slavery in Islam was never based on race. So this concept of black slaves, Arab slaves, etc., Islam enslaving black people, that's false. Everybody in Islam, everybody is equal in the eyes in Islamic theology. Again, see the Quran, chapter 49, verse 13, etc., etc. So everybody is created equal. The reason why David Wood is talking about this is because David Wood is the world's biggest attention whore. What do attention whores do? They take controversial topics and they make a mountain out of a molehill out of those topics just to get attention for themselves. If I were him, I wouldn't even be bringing up black people, etc., because talking about that stuff is very, very dangerous. So he's putting himself in dangerous waters, but that's David Wood. Let him kill himself. I mean, let him destroy himself. So, if he destroys himself, it makes our lives a lot easier. It makes us Muslim apologists' lives a lot easier. So if he wants to destroy himself or cause these types of problems for himself, hell, I welcome it, Secondly, the Quran in various places says to free slaves. In the Quran, chapter 20, and that's the part he didn't even bring that up. The Quran does say free slaves, and according to Islamic belief, the Quran is the book of God. You can see the Quran, chapter 13, verse 1, etc., etc. So the Quran, or God, tells us that freeing slaves is good and encouraged. For the verses, see the Quran, chapter 2, verse 177, Quran, chapter 5, verse 89, Quran, chapter 9, verse 60, Quran, chapter 24, verse 33, Quran, chapter 90, verse 13 to 17. So freeing slaves is encouraged in Islam in the Quran. Thirdly, the Prophet Muhammad said your slaves are your brothers in Sahih Bukhari, in Sahih Bukhari number 30, hadith number 30. So the Prophet Muhammad endorsed ethical treatment of slaves and made them equal to Muslims. They were always considered equal and never inferior, like the white Christians treated their slaves. So and not only that, but the Prophet Muhammad set slaves free in Sahih Bukhari 4,461 and Sahih Bukhari 2,739. Fourth, the Mary the Cop and Hafsa and the Prophet Muhammad story, or the Prophet Muhammad with his female slave Mary the Cop story, that's actually a false story, and I'll be leaving I already refuted that story many times over. I refuted it last year. I refuted it the first time I refuted that story was back in 2016. So he's just running out of arguments. So he's repeating same old refuted arguments. I'll be posting the link to my refutation of that story in the description box below. This refutes David Wood's stupidity on slavery and Islam. So stay tuned. More videos are coming up ahead.